Okay, so again, welcome. This is a webinar called Lighten Up with Lithium, and we're presenting an angler's guide to lithium batteries from RELiON battery. Just to give you the format of today's webinar, we're going to do, it's going to be about an hour long. We'll divide it into about 3 sections. First, I'll be doing a 20-minute presentation on our batteries and the benefits of lithium batteries in the marine applications. Then we'll do a 20-minute Q&A session with our special guest, Patrick Walters. And then we'll follow up with Q&A from any of the attendees. During this presentation, through all 3 phases, the chat box is available for you to type questions. We have a distinguished engineer, my colleague Christine Johnson, will be there trying to answer questions or answering your questions as we move along. And then if you have any questions left over, or you have any special questions for Patrick Walters, we will field those in the 3rd stage of today's webinar. You can find the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen in your little control box. Just to give you my background, I'm an engineer by degree. I've been in the battery industry my entire career. I graduated from university here in California. I spent 12 years at Trojan Battery, really learning the wet flooded market. Then I saw the benefits of sealed batteries and transitioned to Full River, where we exclusively made, produced, and sold AGM batteries into the marine market and many other conventional deep cycle applications. Like many of you, I saw the promise of lithium batteries come along and all the tremendous benefits, and I decided I really want to be a part of this quantum leap in battery technology, and I joined RELiON Battery about 2.5 years ago. So with that being said, I want to delve into what makes lithium iron phosphates better than lead acid. So to start with, there's so many benefits to lithium batteries. Excuse me, there's an automatic setting here. There's so many benefits to lithium iron phosphate batteries. We could really get stuck on any one of them or spend really a lot of time focusing on every one. So I'm going to have to kind of spend some time, just spend a short amount of time on each one, kind of skim the surface, but there's so many to look at. So let's look at a quick comparison between flooded lead acid batteries, AGM batteries, which are used widespread use in the marine market, and lithium batteries. Right at the top, we have the category of weight. Pretty black and white. Everybody who's picked up a lead acid battery, whether it be an AGM or flooded, you know how tremendously heavy they can be and cumbersome to move or to deal with, or even install. Lithium batteries are at least half the weight and much more convenient to use and install, purchase, move. The biggest advantage to that category, though, happens to be really how the boat performs, how fast it can move on the water, how quick you can get to plane, the maneuverability, the reduced weight allows you to bring more gear on board, and just a much greater performance. So that seems to be, from our anglers, the top reason, the top benefit in lithium batteries in this application. Moving to the charge capability of lithium batteries, there's really several advantages. If you look at it kind of through the looking glass at different angles, there's about 3 different things you'll see. First of all, lithium batteries can be charged extremely fast if you have that capability. If you wanted to, all our batteries are pretty much capable of being charged in 1 or 2 hours. Now, that really basically means you'd have to go out and get a more powerful battery charger, which most people don't want to do. So the capability is there, but not everyone takes advantage of that. Another benefit that's not really listed here, and I might touch on later, is you can use your existing charger, which most people want to do anyway. Save them a little money, especially upsizing to the slightly higher cost of a lithium battery. If you're using your same charger, it's very compatible in most cases. You're still kind of charging at that standard rate of 10 to 20% of whatever your capacity is. But, you know, fret not, there's still an advantage. Lithium batteries, the charge time, they need about half the time to be charged. No longer do you need all those lengthy finish float stages and 5-stage, 4-stage charging charge profiles. Those are done away with. You really only need basically virtually a 1-stage charge. So that cuts your charge time in half, whether you change your charger or not. Charge level and charge frequency. I'm kind of going to try to address these together in the interest of time and a starting weight. Lithium batteries, let me start backwards. Lead acid batteries have a very strict regimen. You're really supposed to charge them every time you use them, not let them sit or get discharged or leave them in a discharged state. So you really have to be on top of charging your battery. If you don't, or you let it get discharged somehow with some accessories in your boat, you're kind of in for a battery that's been degraded to some degree, or perhaps even ruined. That's no longer the case in the world of lithium. They don't mind if they're charged halfway, 3/4, 1/4. They don't charge if you charge them right away, weekly, or if you just put the boat away and you go to charge the battery before the next time you go out, which is actually feasible because you can charge it fast, right? So it's something I like to call yo-yo charging. It's not an industry term, it just gets the point across quickly. You have a lot of versatility as to when or how you charge it. You know, your anxiety level can go down, your enjoyment factor can go up. Substantial category of life, incredible improvement in life, 10 to 20 times that of an AGM battery, which many people use. And still well above the life of a flooded lead acid battery. And of course, there's a premium for all of these things. You pay a premium, it's a little bit higher cost, as you can see here on the last line. But just it's worth pointing out that, you know, 10, 20 years ago, if you had a lead acid battery that had any one of these benefits to them, you could charge perhaps double the premium for your battery. To have all of them available in one battery is not only a quantum leap, it's a tremendous value that really justifies typically the upcharge for converting to lithium. Here we have we've surmised a sheet of all the benefits that lithium offers, and kind of a easy to digest logo sheet, from things I've mentioned already, from lightweight to something I'll touch on in a second, high constant power, PSOC tolerant. That's really what I was talking about with the yo-yo charging, and the battery's happy to be not fully charged. They're maintenance free, more usable capacity. So I'm going to touch on each one of these. Even for boaters in the different areas and different interests or types of boaters, some of these might be even more important to one person than to another. So I'll touch on these with reference to really how it looks in the angler's market, but you'll have to find out which one's best for you. But in any case, you'll probably find a very convincing case that an enticing case to use lithium batteries or convert if you haven't already. So why is lithium iron phosphate the smart choice for anglers? And I just want to touch on the LiFePO4. That's the chemical symbol for lithium iron phosphate. There's a few different types of lithium chemistries out there. You might have heard of a few. We say lithium iron phosphate is the predominant one in the marine market, so you may not even heard of the others. But batteries, just to give a quick comparison, batteries in your laptop, your cell phone, hoverboards, Tesla, they're all a little bit different, and they're actually much different in a little bit different chemical makeup, but largely different in some of the benefit categories. So I'll touch on those as we go through it, but just keep in mind all RELiON batteries are lithium iron phosphate, and that's typically what you're going to encounter in the marine market. So we talked about reduced weight, at least a 50% reduction in weight. So here we really spell out what that means to you as an angler. You get the higher speeds in less time, less fuel consumption, less draft, and you're more agility. You have more agility on the water. all things very important for the competitive fisherman or the serious sportsman. Longer life. I think this is just a tremendous benefit in any application, especially marine. I just happen to know that from my 20 years in the industry is that, you know, batteries typically last an average of 3 years in the marine industry, and they all somehow always seem to fail at the worst possible time, right? Whether it's right when you're planning to go out for a trip or get out on the water. And, you know, my fun time is really important to me, my recreation time. So that's really a deal breaker. If you can remove a trouble item like a battery and make it last forever and reduce all that anxiety, it's worth a while. Okay. So no more changing your battery out every season or every 2 seasons. And when you factor that in, that really key long life, that could be 10, 15, perhaps 20-year lifespan, the cost of ownership for that battery really goes down in making the battery justifiable purchase. Here, for some of you more technical people, here's a graph that really represents battery life. A lot of people have come to know in the battery industry, we rate batteries by life cycles. Life cycle is a complete discharge and recharge, meaning you take the battery completely empty and then charge it back up. This graph here is a representation of that in graphical form. We've tried to make it friendly and not only show you how many life cycles you get with the full discharge at 100% DOD, the red line, but also if you were to discharge the battery only halfway, we call it 50% DOD, that's the blue line, then we have another line representing 80%. And what these lines try to show you is if you look at of course, the bottom line of the graph, the x-axis, it tries to show you how many cycles the battery is going to last. Each color line represents how hard you're using the battery. As you use a lithium battery, its capacity diminishes over time. So all 3 lines start out at where you would expect a battery to start out at 100% capacity. And then as you use it, 100 cycles in, 1,000, 5,000 cycles, the capacity gradually diminishes to less than its initial performance. So hopefully you can digest that graph. I mean, at the worst case scenario, the red line, where you're using a battery 100% every day. That means in 10 years, at 365 days a year, you'd be at 3,650 cycles. Your battery would still be around 70% capacity if you can follow that. Now, I don't know of an angler. I've never met an angler that's able to fish every day. Totally met some that want to, but I'll let you do the math in that regard. And bottom line, what I tell a lot of people is these batteries are going to outlive me and you. Given that, often the warranties are measured in years instead of months with our batteries versus lead acid. We're getting thousands of life cycles versus at most hundreds of life cycles with lead acid. And these are true dry batteries. There's no maintenance. And this is just another graph showing you the life cycles you get and comparing it to what is predictable for a wet battery with that red dotted line that we've inserted on the graph. I've touched on faster charge time. This is really not a joke. It's almost a hidden surprise for a lot of people. You tell them, they buy a battery, and then they're just astonished at how quickly they can get their battery charged, whether they've changed chargers or not. What's that mean for you? Well, when you're fishing on consecutive days, it means you got a top-notch battery every morning to boost you out of the slot and get you moving. And again, it keeps your mind off your equipment and onto the task at hand, which is catching fish or having fun on the water. I'm still here. I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss any key points. You'll see a note here that your current AGM charger will work. I'll expand on that in a second. Keep in mind, all our batteries do have an internal BMS. That stands for Battery Management System. A lot of you might know that term. The BMS is there to protect the battery and just make sure it doesn't get damaged from misuse, something, a courtesy you don't have with lead acid batteries. So moving back to chargers, here's kind of the roster on how it lines up with your existing chargers. Many chargers nowadays are being offered with a lithium charge profile. And that's optimal, of course. If you have that, you would pick that charge profile and use it, and it would be compatible with our batteries. AGM charge profiles are very similar to that. So we condone, it's highly acceptable for you to use a charger with an AGM charge profile. It's going to work and going to get our battery fully charged. Occasionally, we might get an issue with a trouble light or a fault light coming on just because it didn't recognize the battery got fully charged, or it might have a conflict with the BMS on that charge cycle, but it's pretty rare. And that's independent of brand name of charger or AGM charge profile setting, because there are a few out there in the market. When it comes to flooded charge profiles, or battery chargers that are set up for lead acid batteries or wet, they might use a different term. They may work and be just fine. We discourage it only because the battery will get charged, but more often than not, or I would say on occasion, more occasional than AGM chargers, you can get fault codes thrown from the charger. Commonly, because the flooded charger charges the battery up, gets it full, and then the BMS sees the voltage is going beyond what it needs, and it shuts off. So the point I'm trying to make is there's no damage or no harm done to the batteries. Partial state of charge. I think this was really another great benefit to lithium batteries. Reduces a lot of anxiety of you, whether you're taking care of your battery properly or not. You can charge it when it's convenient or when you remember to. And that's what this slide says as well. Gives you some flexibility and peace of mind on getting that battery recharged. More power. This is another one of those benefits people are astonished at when they finally install a lithium battery. Make a quick analogy to a non-marine application. Anyone's ever used home power tools, battery powered? 10, 20 years ago, they were coming with NiCad batteries or AGM. In the last few years, you've seen the kind of a insurgence of those power tools being converted to lithium. I bought one a few years ago, was using it to erect the structure in my backyard. The darn drill was driving screws all day long. It just wouldn't quit. And the last screw I drove was going in as fast as the first screw that I put in the wood. So the same is true with lithium batteries at boats. You shoot out of the slot in the morning, your batteries are topped off. Of course, they're going to perform at peak performance, and your boat's going to be real zippy and give you super responsiveness. Well, it's going to be the same with lead acid. That's not the case. If you're out all day, you'll see voltage sag. You'll feel the performance lag. If you're going into headwind, you might start getting nervous. It's not the case with lithium. You have as much voltage and power at the end of the day as you have at the beginning. That only just means good performance for your boat, but all your accessories and electronics too. You won't have any trouble with them blinking out or confidence issues that they not be operating right or displaying the right values. This is a graphical pictorial that represents that. If you can see on the left, we're kind of its axis, the y-axis represents the voltage of a lithium battery. The bottom, it shows you the capacity, meaning how depleted the battery might be. It's in any point during the day. And then we've given 4 lines to how fast you might be pulling energy out of the battery. The red line is if you pull energy out of the battery really fast. such as a powerful trolling motor. The blue line represents using lighter loads, lighter trolling motor, or maybe just some electronics and peripherals on the boat. In either case, all the lines are well above 12 volts throughout most of the discharge, which again means constant full power. You compare that to a lead acid battery, which is the dotted blue line. Very generous line there. You can see the voltage sag gets down below 12 and starts nosediving 11, 11.5, even after just being halfway discharged. And that gray portion is blacked out because almost no battery really provides you any useful energy below 10.5 volts. And that even exposes and magnifies how much of a difference the voltage spectrum is. So higher voltage means more power and more confidence in your equipment and boat operating properly. Or really not properly, but at top performance. Lithium iron phosphate batteries provide more usable capacity than lead acid equivalent. So when we provide a 100 amp hour battery or we rate it, you get all 100 amp hours, no matter if you're pulling high current, medium current, low. That means, and that's not true with lead acid. They really get sluggish, especially if you start pulling more current out of them. I like to make the analogy that lithium battery chemistry is really sort of a digital electronic feel to it, the way the chemistry performs. It's highly efficient. And lead acid is really an analog chemistry that's and feels that way. And it's very inefficient, especially high currents and late in the day. All that adds up to more time for you to fish and more time on the water. This is one of our graphical representations of that. Green line representing a solid 100 amp hours throughout the day, no matter what rate you're pulling at, how powerful your motor, how many accessories you have. And the blue and the red lines really represent the reduction or the available amp hours as you start loading up on the battery with amps. Safety has always been a concern with lithium. People are starting to get more educated now. This is what I was trying to touch on earlier, is where lithium iron phosphate, it is the most stable chemistry of all the lithium chemistries out there. By far the most stable. In fact, it's the, how do I say, it's in a class of its own. As engineers, we talk about, exothermic rates. It's got 5% of the, generates 5% of the heat of the other batteries. So the other batteries generate 100%. And there's real concerns with moderating their temperature and keeping them cool. None of that's necessary with lithium iron phosphate. They don't enter into the condition that's known as thermal runaway easily. Their thermal runaway temperature is very high, up around 500 degrees Fahrenheit. In addition, we've done many things at the battery level, cell level to keep the batteries safe. Many of them are listed here with fuses and stainless steel cases. And we just make the battery properly. And it's certified through several agencies that the battery is built to these strict standards. So that all being said, if I didn't convince you already, or if you weren't convinced at the beginning, perhaps you were so at all the benefits when you add them all up, you're probably asking yourself, which is the right battery for you? Well, at RELiON, we really pride ourselves on trying to make your battery choice or move into lithium batteries as easy as possible. One of the ways we do that is we stick to the conventional battery sizes that we're all used to in our markets. And here you'll see just such examples. There's 4 batteries here, starting with probably our most popular battery, the RB100 on the right, which is a standard group 31, moving down through the other group sizes, 27, 24. So if your size is the thing that usually, which often does choose a battery for people, we have the right battery for you size-wise. If it's amp hours, we've got a wide variation here from 50 to 100 amp hours. And you can gang these batteries too, or connect them in parallel or series to add more capacity, respectively, or increase your voltage. respectively. So you do want to check your spec sheet just to make sure you're not exceeding. There are limitations to that. Most of these can be hooked either 4 or 6 in series, so they can achieve your 36 or 48 volt trolling motors as needed. And quite often, most fishermen only need 75 or 80 amp hours to get the job done. Common question is, how many amp hours do you need? A general rule of thumb is if you're operating on, for every 100 amp hours you are operating on with lead acid batteries, you can downsize to about 2/3 to half of what you had. So you can come down to a 75 or 50 amp hour battery. That also leaves you the flexibility to double that. So if you had 100 amp hours lead acid, you can move to 100 amp hours lithium and you get twice as much runtime. Okay, I'm going to start to accelerate a little bit here because we want to leave time for everybody to talk to Patrick Walters. I think probably the majority of you tuned in for that rather than listen to me. So we will, we also have a battery that's capable of providing a higher peak current for occasional things like perhaps cranking a motor and such. So the RB100 HP is a very popular battery for such, and it can also do everything the RB100 can do as well. Our batteries are compatible with many boat and bass fishing brands, as you see here. I'd be hard pressed to think any they aren't compatible with. So really hard to make a slide and say that. So hopefully this helps you, gives you a little bit comfortable feeling with the batteries. Very common setup if you're already thinking about it and doing the math and you really want to convert your whole boat. You might have a 36 volt trolling motor as well as an outboard gas. And most people will choose 3 RB100s or RB50s, connect them in series for the 36 volts to run the trolling motor, and then they pair that up with an RB100 HP for their house power and start peripherals and their starting needs. So it's not uncommon if you already did your math and have been checking our spec sheets and that's what you're looking at. Consider. All right, bear with me a second. I'd like to introduce Patrick Walters. He's a Bassmaster Elite Series Pro Angler. Going to have to give me a second to help him join in here. Okay, we are not being friendly here. Okay, hi Patrick, how are you?
Hey Craig, how are you doing, man? I'm glad to be here, and thanks to everybody for attending the webinar today. It's a great day. It's hot, so tell you the truth, I'd rather be inside doing this right now.
Super. Where are you located today?
I'm actually at home in Summerville, South Carolina, and we're, I think, at our 4th day in a row of 100 degrees.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Well, thanks for taking your time out on a week off to spend some time with us and potential customers. Really, truly appreciate that and your partnership with RELiON Battery. I have a few questions I'd like to get to for you. Now, everybody keep in mind, I'm not a fisherman, so some of the questions I might ask are a little basic. I apologize for that. But so I'm kind of going to start off in there. I'm kind of curious, who or what ignited your passion for fishing?
Tell you the truth, it just runs deep from, it's a family thing, Growing up, I always grew up in the outdoors as a little kid with my dad and my granddad. I would have to say my dad, though, was definitely the biggest influencer on me. We grew up, we were always in Arkansas duck hunting every year, and we always were saltwater fishing or brim fishing, and just being in the outdoors kind of just only grew that passion for fishing.
Beautiful. So it's within the family. That's great. So this is your first season as Elite Pro, as I understand. How are things going for you this season?
This is my rookie season. This is the first year I've been able to fish for a living, and tell you the truth, that you couldn't script it any better. This is what dreams are made of. This is what this is what I set my goal to, was to fish professionally. And it's been a great year so far. Everybody backing me and the support I've had, and the tournaments have been great. my favorite thing is they've been all shallow fishing tournaments. I've been able to fish in the dirt how I like to fish, and so it was my comfort level. And we still have 5 tournaments left, and we're finally starting to make a switch in the season. So it's been a great season. It's been what dreams are truly made of. I couldn't ask for anything more, and hopefully we can maintain some momentum.
A little bit of my own personal side question here. How big is the elite field of competitors? How long is the season, or how many tournaments are there total? And how are you faring as a rookie in the standings?
See, in the Bassmaster Elite Series, the professionals, there's only 75 of us this year. So it's only 75 guys in the world. And there's 8 tournaments in the regular season, as well as we have the Classic and the AOY Championship, which those are 2 added tournaments. So we have the AOY Championship at the end of this season, which it'll be in September in Michigan. And so far this season's been great. We're actually, with this being my rookie season, after 5 tournaments, I'm currently leading the race for ROI and Angler of the Year. So
wow.
It's been a good year so far.
Fantastic. So wow, you're a rookie sensation, I guess, a fair term to apply to you. Okay, let's talk about your move to lithium batteries in your Bass boat. You reached out to us in 2018 to partner, which we appreciate. What made you decide you need to have lithium batteries, first of all?
Well, to tell you the truth, it's just, if you look at the normal day life, everything just is trending to lithium. Look at your cell phone, it's a lithium. Just imagine if it was a lead acid battery, how big that phone would be. And like you said, compared to the drill, where you used to have just a normal drill and it would only work for about an hour, 2 hours, then it would lose power. But now with lithium power, why would we not use that in the bass fishing industry, where we just depend on being out there all day on the water? You need to have that dependability and long lasting. So the main 3 things that I switched over to lithium for was the weight reduction. That absolutely blew me away. Compared to where I was running 4 Group 31 lead acid batteries, they're 66 pounds a piece. When I put the lithium in there, I cut 144 pounds out of the back of my boat. So I gained 3 inches I lost 3 inches of draft, where I was drafting about like 16 inches of water. I'm now drafting 13 inches of water. And it really doesn't sound like much, but in my mind, when you're fishing shallow water, it's like when you get in a bathtub, you see that water rise. But if you put a rubber ducky in there, the water doesn't move much. So the more a boat drafts, the more those fish can feel you in those shallow areas. So losing that weight reduction, it actually helps you catch more fish when you fish shallow. And the reliability of it, knowing that it's maintenance free, I don't have to take care of it. I put the batteries in there and there's no questions asked. I'm not checking the water levels. I'm not constantly adding water level. I don't have to replace it every year. It's just one of those things. When it's maintenance free, it helps a lot better. And then the longer run time. I've only killed the batteries 1 time without charging them. And it was after 3.5 days of fishing nonstop. I was actually in my John boat. It was a 24-volt setup. And after 3.5 days of fishing it, they finally they died. And I mean, what more could you expect from that? Being able to run that long. And I charge mine every single day. And the shorter run time, I didn't even think that was a thing. But now it takes that stress off of you. Say if you're at like a hotel or something, you can just plug your batteries in and they'll charge in 2 hours, if that. It definitely, it makes you sleep better at night.
By the way, that's a great description. I've never heard anyone quite say it like that, with the draft and how far your boat's in the water. It really makes a lot of sense to me as an engineer. I'm curious, you said the batteries went dead, and what was that like, or what was the procedure for you to get your batteries back online when that happened?
It was actually just the trolling motor batteries. It wasn't the cranking battery.
Okay.
And we were actually just brim fishing, shellcracker fishing in the John boat. And so once they died, it was, hey, pick the trolling motor up, and we just kind of idled around for a little bit. We didn't see any more shellcracker, took it to the hill. Put it back on charge.
There you go. That's a common question we get, is what happens if the batteries do discharge all the way. I'm just going to touch on that. Go
It
ahead.
went from 100% power, where it was just we were cruising down the bank, to it just drops off, where you just feel like something came unplugged or something, but it's just you can tell the battery's died.
Side note here, we've kind of recovered some time here, so I'll just take a moment for a little technical education. Two things with lithium batteries: that there's a great benefit to that high power all day, but you do get a little warning when your batteries die, which is what Patrick's talking about. It's encouraged to have a fuel gauge or some sort of battery indicator telling you what percentage your charge batteries are at, so you don't get surprised if they do get low and you're caught too far on the water. And like Patrick said, it's very common or surprising. Sometimes you might get overconfident in yourself in that situation. If you do, not a difficulty, the batteries, you're able to bring them back and put them on charge in most cases and get them right back up to speed. So,
to tell you how fast they've charged, I've actually forgot to charge them before heading fishing, and it's going to sound pretty rednecky, but what we actually did was we put the generator in the back of the truck and ran an extension cord to the boat and charged them on the way to the boat landing with a generator.
That's very ingenuitive, or to make up a word. Sounds MacGyver. That's what I'll say. Okay, is there a reason you want to partner with us, RELiON Battery in particular?
Well, my main reason why I chose RELiON was that they are a local company. They're right here in the Carolinas between Rock Hill and Charlotte. And when I reached out to them, because I knew I wanted to make the switch to lithium, and so I looked at RELiON and I saw how many different batteries they had, that they don't just have one set of batteries, that their technology is spread out everywhere. And when I talked to them, they were so easy to work with. I was dealing with Charlie Messina, a great guy, very knowledgeable of it. And that everybody at RELiON, it's a family feel, but they're a high-class organization where they know what they're doing, they have the technology, and they're willing to work with you. So it was a good fit. I felt comfortable with them, and that they also use the lithium iron phosphate, which is the safest lithium chemistry. That was the main goal. Was I didn't want to go find a different lithium chemistry and kind of chance it for the first time that I ever was going to run lithium. I wanted to do it the right way.
Well, thank you. That's quite a compliment to us. It's glad to hear that our experience and our really kind of family nature to the company comes through. So we appreciate that. Another question. A lot of anglers are making the switch from lead acid to lithium, but many are hesitating or not quite ready. What advice do you have for those that are thinking about it or on the fence about switching to lithium?
Well, switching to lithium, it's a hard pill to swallow. You know, when you see that initial cost, you're really wondering, is the battery is it going to be worth it? But to tell you the truth, once you get past that initial burden, there's no question. I run lithium in my John boat now. I run it in my aluminum boat. I run it in the bass boat. For every purpose, if you're a true tournament angler and it's something that you highly depend on, it's one of those things you have to be running lithium, because there's no question it's maintenance free. You don't have to worry about corrosion in the back of the boat. They're easy to handle, to move around when you're putting them in the boat. You know, you're not lugging around a 66-pound battery and trying to put it in there. And the main thing is, for tournament anglers, it's just one of those things. My dad always told me, you know, you spend all this money on a boat, you spend all the money on the gas, the ice to go fishing. And this was back when we actually offshore fished. That why would you skimp out on bait? You know, a lot of people would go buy frozen bait or something. When there's something that important and you're doing it for a living, or you're making money, or you just want to enjoy it, you have to do everything the right way. You know, don't be scared to spend the money, because don't count out something because it is a little more expensive, because it's going to be what keeps you on the water longer for more periods of time. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, don't skimp out on one little thing, because that's the lifeline. Those batteries are that's the heart of that boat, basically.
That's well said. That's a good point. We're going to tack back to a fishing question. What's the biggest misconception misconception about pro bass fishing?
That's a tough one. The biggest misconception about pro bass fishing, I would have to say, is that people are always like, man, you just got it so easy. You just go fishing. But the amount of kind of stress that you put on yourself to perform sometimes, but how much it is a business as well. A lot of people call it, they say it's 50% fishing, 50% business, where you have to worry about sponsors, you have to worry about all these deadlines, you have all these expos you go to, and
Mhm.
mainly getting all your money together. It costs about $75,000 in expenses every single year just to fish. It's 40 something in entry fees, and then lodging. So being able to make ends meet is the main thing. It's not always glitz and glamour like what you see, from the inside looking out. It definitely gives you perspective that you got to have your ducks in a row, and you really got to work at it to maintain.
That's another great answer. That's a very colorful answer. Thank you. What do you think has led to you this place in your career, and what does the future hold for Patrick Walters Fishing?
Well, truly, I hope the future holds for a a great career and some longevity. I want to fish for the rest of my life. This is what I want to do. I try to fish every single day possible. But family support, having my girlfriend behind me, my family, they all supported me from the get-go. Actually, in high school, I played football and baseball. In sophomore year, baseball was really starting to interfere with the fishing season a good bit because it was in the spring. And it was at that point in time, you can do a lot of things, but you can only do them so well. So if you do just a few things, you can do those a lot better. So I actually gave up baseball in high school just to fish. And at that point in time, that's when I made the decision. I wanted to fish for a living, and I was going to do whatever it took to put all my time in it to make it. So mainly just hard work, and then setting some goals,
Mm-hmm.
and then don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you have a goal, you do whatever it takes to reach it.
Is there, one of my own personal questions, is there, how old is the professional circuit? And are there some established marquee performers and records that are meant to be, or that you would want to try to attain, like a Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods to paint?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, bass fishing has been around forever. I wish I could tell you that when the inception of it was. I want to say it was in the 60s. I could go back and look it up. But the professional bass fishing has been around for a very long time. And there is hundreds of different goals. But Kevin Van Dam's the man. He is the guy who's 4 classics, 26 tournament wins. He did. That is what you set your sights for, because tell you the truth, every tournament I shoot to win it, and I shoot to be the best person that I can be and to catch as much fish as possible. Because if I don't win it, hopefully I'll at least cut a check. But if you shoot just to cut a check, then you'll fall short every time. So my goal is to become the best in professional bass fishing that there is. And just, if you don't reach it, hopefully you've had a good career,
Yeah. I remember that
Stars
name.
land on the moon's the plan.
I actually remember that name when I first got into my battery career. He was sponsored by a company I was working for. So it's fascinating. Is he still active, or is he retired?
Yes, he actually fishes for MLF now. There's 3 divisions in the professional circuit. There's the FLW Tour, the MLF, and then the Bass Elites.
Okay. Okay, fascinating. Last prepared question, and we'll open it up to our attendees. What 2 pieces of advice would you give to up and coming anglers trying to make it into the elites?
2 things that I can really tell you is you really have to decide what you want to do, and you have to set goals no matter what, whether you want to become a doctor, or you want to become a librarian, or you want to become a professional fisherman. It doesn't matter. Set goals, and set achievable goals. You set a large goal that say, hey, I want to fish professionally. Hey, I want to come in top 10 in points in my local division, and follow your dream. Do whatever it takes to achieve those goals. Work hard in everything. Treat everybody with respect the way you want to be treated. The fishing industry is an extremely small industry. Everybody knows everybody. So just do it the right way. It takes a lot more time to do things that way, but it's a lot more respectable. And then when you get there, you'll have a longer career. And finally, time on the water. Time on the water is everything. I watch a lot of videos. I do a lot of research, but nothing beats time on the water in fishing experience. That's the best way to gain knowledge and just get the instincts of fishing. It's just like shooting free throws or anything else. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think I was just about to say that transcends in probably into any aspect of a goal we're trying to achieve in life. So time on the water. Okay, well, thank you for that. Like I said, now I'm going to open it up to the attendees. If you got a question for me, more technically slanted, or you got a question for Patrick for fishing wise, your capability for asking questions would be to raise your hand. So there's a button for that in your control panel, webinar control panel. If you do that, I can. It should come up on my end, and I can provide the mic for you. While people are sorting that out and trying to find their question, we will see if there's any more slides to go through. Okay, no, there's two more. All right. Okay, we have a question from Rodrigo. I'm going to allow you to talk. Rodrigo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great. Thanks for raising your hand. What questions do you have for us today?
Well, I have been using your batteries already, my own boat. And as I am a marine electrician, I am solving the solutions. So some of my customers, they need this kind of battery. But then when it comes to price, they come with the brilliant idea of having two batteries. A starting battery, they will have an AGM, and then the house battery, they have the lithium.
Yes.
Not only for pricing, but because of the starting currents and all that, you know?
Understood.
And most batteries die for neglecting rather than for old. I have never seen an old battery dying because it's old. They die because people neglect them. And starting batteries are very neglected. So they take the plunge of a nice lithium battery for house, for one battery, and the cheap battery for starting up. They change it every 6 months, trash it, and they get another one.
Yes.
So they came with the question, as they have a switch to parallel batteries, and they have a switch for startup or change one engine to the other. They asked me, can I put them in parallel? I said, oh my God. If the lithium has one more volt, all the energy is gonna go to the acid battery, yes, or maybe you have a little short circuit, or I may damage my lithium or what. So that's a question. What happened when somebody wanna do that?
Good question. That's a question we actually get more often than you would think. And I'll just rephrase it again so everyone can understand if they can hear you. Is Rodrigo's asking, can he put a lithium battery, can he connect it in parallel with an AGM battery? And he was specifically talking also about a house battery and starting. There's a few answers here, Rodrigo, okay? So I'll step through them a little bit slowly. A lot of things haven't been tested to a great degree with lithium. The industry is still very young. So this is one of those things that nobody's run a test any great length to see what the effects are of combining a parallel lithium AGM battery in parallel. Now, that being said, we've had customers do it, and they report back to us there hasn't been any issues, heard of an issue yet. So we somewhat discourage it because we can't guarantee what the outcome's going to be. Theoretically, as an engineer, the voltages of lithium and AGM are very close. So if you were to connect two batteries in parallel and leave them there, the lithium battery would likely serve kind of as a little float charging battery charger for the AGM battery. AGM batteries are float charging friendly. There's reason to believe there's not going to be an issue. Now, that's just for connecting and letting them sit there. Then when you go to use an application, it could be a little bit different story. So like when you start your engine, all the starting power probably come from your AGM battery. And if you ever one of our standard models, lithium, it probably won't contribute. So why you would do that might be different for different people. If you're doing it temporarily, maybe for starting, a little bit extra cranking power, again, that's versus doing continuously, there's probably even less risk. So again, there's different shades to that answer. I can't quite give you a black and white. Does that?
Yeah, okay. So also when we are charging it with a charger, I don't know how different is the internal resistance of each battery.
Mm-hmm.
So the current coming from the charger, we prefer one battery or the other to go through.
Mm-hmm. So logistically, if you were to connect those two in parallel and you charge them, let's say you put an AGM charger on there, the AGM charger will, it's going to depend on the logic of the charger. From my experience, what is likely to happen is the AGM charger will take the batteries to 14.6 volts and hold it there. Eventually,
that happens.
Excuse me?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's happening. I'm doing it, and that's happening. The
Mm-hmm.
voltage is up for all of them, but as they are in parallel connected simultaneously,
Mm-hmm.
one of them is swallowing more current than the other
Mm-hmm.
because different internal resistance, and I don't know which resistance is higher, the lithium or the lead. And if you may find out information, that's important, so we know where the current is going to.
Yeah, and now you're starting to get into again, why I started out is we could definitely test that and chart the internal resistance to see what happens. We have so many projects on our hands in the lithium world. That's kind of a lower priority goal, but it can be done. It can be done, but we don't have the data.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Hey, Greg, I'd like to chime in on Chris Pope's question in the chat a little bit.
Okay, great.
He said he's got a 17-foot aluminum bass boat. He fishes local tournaments, and he's ready to update his trolling motor and batteries. His question was, do you recommend a 24-volt or a 36-volt trolling motor, and which RELiON lithium batteries do you recommend? That is definitely, it is a personal question on what you prefer, Chris. On my last boat, my aluminum boat actually had a 17-foot tracker, and I was running the 24-volt set, and I was running the RB100s with an 80-pound Fortrex trolling motor, and it did absolutely perfect. I had the 100s because that's what I had from the bass boat, and this is America, go big or go home. I've always chose the bigger batteries if you can get it, since they are still only 30 pounds a piece and you have the room for them. If you do have the room for it, I would definitely, that way there's no question it. And actually, I'm about to upgrade and get another 17-foot aluminum boat, and I'm actually going to put the 36-volt in there with the 3 RB100s and put the 112 Ultrex on the aluminum boat, because I actually fish a lot of current and I wanted a little bit more power just so I can go upstream in that longevity. That's the only reason. But fishing normal bodies of water with not much moving water, the 24-volt was perfectly fine. But just going a little bit faster and a little more power, I'm going to go with the 36 on my next one with the RB100s.
Great information. Thank you for finding that question and addressing that. If you happen to see another question there, we'll be glad to take that as well. We'll answer a few more. Right now, we don't have any hands raised for questions, so it's open. The floor is open if anyone has a question for Patrick or myself. Let's see. Did you, what type of charger were you using in that setup, Patrick? Did I miss that?
The Minn Kota precision charger,
Okay.
the 4-bank. And to tell you the truth, the RB100 HP is my favorite battery, hands down. I think y'all have hit that battery the nail on the head, because I can run 5 graphs off of that one cranking battery, the live wells, a radio all day long. And then at the end of the day, say if you're fishing a tournament, a lot of tournaments you do a lot of running around, and that alternator will charge that battery. But if you're only staying at one spot all day, at the end of the day with a lead acid battery, if you're running too many graphs and you're running that live well all day long, that battery will be drawn down so much that you won't even be able to crank it, and you'll have to jump that battery over. But with the lithium, with the RB100 HP, it cranks every single time. And that is why I run lithium, because there's no question. It's the reliability, it's the dependability that every time I turn the key, I'm going to get back to weigh-in. Because if I can't get back to weigh-in, I don't make money. And so that is why I choose lithium, and that RB100 HP is my favorite battery, hands down.
I'll add my 2 cents here just from a career perspective. About 3 years ago, when I was working at Full River, I saw, I battery engineer, I knew chemistries were emerging, but for some reason lithium wasn't being adopted, so I didn't give it much attention. And then people started calling in and telling me all the benefits, like the ones I went over with you and whatnot. And I was astonished. I thought, wow, this is really mind blowing. If this is true, just for survival instinct, I better get into into that industry, because it was really unbelievable. So I guess the connection there was your income depends on you getting back to the weigh station, and likewise, my income depends on really being with if the technology is this good, my income's going to depend on it, or I'm going to be put out of work. So
correct. And just the fact that they are maintenance free, there's no corrosion out of them. They're not, with the old batteries, how it would corrode so much when you're charging it, and you don't have to clean them as often. It's the main thing. You're not going back in the back hatch and it's just absolutely disgusted, and your wires aren't really touching because you don't have a good connection. The simple things like that, it's such a benefit with lithium batteries that we were losing with lead acid. And the hardest part about switching to lithium is just that initial cost. And that is, once you look at that and you're like, man, but when you see truly the pros of it, it's almost a no-brainer. That's why no matter what boat I'm running from now on, if I'm fishing in it or I need to depend on that boat, if it's aluminum or a bass boat or a bay boat, it'll have lithium in it.
Great. Just a couple comments came in the chat room from, it looks like Mike and or Boz, so I apologize if I didn't get that right, Getzman. One was a comment. It sounds like you're already owner of RELiON batteries. You got them in your 28-foot shear water, and you're using 36-volt trolling motor, and they're working great. So we're glad to hear that. Thanks for that input. And I'm glad to see we have several happy customers in the forum today. The question he fielded, or he put out there, is any idea how far you are away on golf cart batteries? And we'll check back within the next week or two. We have exciting news on our next product line. We're actually introducing a golf cart battery. So I don't want to I can't quite give a sneak peek, because I would steal the thunder of our marketing department, but it's right around the corner, I guess, is to give you the short answer. So, okay, well, I'm looking here. Thank you for that question, Mike. Since there aren't any hands raised, and we're starting to drift from marine questions to golf, I guess I'm going to give everybody one last chance for any questions that might be lingering. But it looks like we're all done. So the hour's expired. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Patrick, so much for your time today and sharing your knowledge and enthusiasm for lithium batteries with us.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.